Hey guys, welcome to Thursdays on Film Scoring Practice. My name is Jonathan Price, and we are starting a brand new installment on every Thursday. We're going to be talking about film and tech and how to score films, and we're going to look at plugins and anything we can possibly get our hands on. So, with that in mind, throughout the week, as you guys post questions on Facebook and things like that, do me a favor and tag myself, Jonathan Price, in the comment section if you want that question answered in an upcoming video. These first couple of videos are going to be geared toward very basic beginning users. So those of you who are advanced, who already know all this stuff, that's fantastic. Please feel free to share comments and with other suggestions for different DAWs and things like that. The DAW that I'm using is Logic Pro 10, so things may be a little bit different when it comes to things like Pro Tools, Cubase, Innuendo, Fruity Loops, Digital Performer, whatever DAW that you have. Things may be a little bit different, but I'll try to keep all of the topics that we're covering as universal as possible. So for this first one, we're going to dive into the film that was posted about these animals in Africa. And so once you get to the download, once you downloaded your clip, if you're using Logic, again, this may be a little bit different for your particular workstation. You're going to open up a new window. Now, I've already got this up, so I'll just go ahead and open a new one just so you guys can see the process. So I'm not going to close this. I'm going to keep this up. Now, I've already done a full orchestration and mock-up of this, and so I just wanted to show just the piano roll and just the piano version of what I did. Okay, so let's create an instrument. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find our movie. So we have a new project open here. You're going to come up here to File, and all the way down here where it says Movie, click Open Movie. Okay, so now we've got, let's see, go back into my downloads. So we have this wildlife in Africa video. Click open. Now it's going to give you two options, and you can click them both. You can not click them. It comes default like this. So you're going to open the movie and extract the audio. We want both of these checked because we're going to work with the audio and we're going to use the video. Obviously, that's what we're scoring to. So once you click OK, it's going to come up with this box. The movie frame rate does not match the project frame rate. The movie has a frame rate of 30 FPS. The project is currently set to 25 frames per second. So FPS, frames per second. Now, if you use Logic's standard 25 frames a second, if this had a SMPTE code on it, it wouldn't line up after a little while. You may get to the end of the movie and you're off by a frame or two. So it's really important that you allow Logic to, or any other DAW, if it has this feature, you allow it to use the project's frame rate, or the video's frame rate, excuse me. So with this, the movie has a frame rate of 30 frames per second, so we're going to go ahead and use that 30 frames per second. That way, no matter what, our music is going to be synced, and our time code will be ready to go. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So up here we have our time code. We have the frame, or the reel that it's using, and this would typically be represented if you have like a huge motion picture blockbuster and you have 5 different reels, and it's getting ready to be consolidated. Well, you need to go through and say, okay, we're on reel 1, we're at 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds, and X amount of frames, so 0 frames currently, because we're at the very beginning. So as we look at this, I'm just going to play the video, and we're going to listen to it and watch it, and then we're going to go back to my other session, and I'll show you kind of how things unfolded for me and how I got through things.
The gamble the crowned eagle took months ago by nesting here has paid off. She is the only eagle to actually nest in this forest. The only one who took the risk to breed here well before the trees came into fruit and the bats flooded in. She only breeds once every 2 years, so her timing must be perfect. In a few months, the bats will leave. But her gamble means her chick will have the best possible start in life. These grasslands have been grazed and burned and have endured the harshest drought in generations. But with the rains, they're beginning to recover. And on the once dust-choked plains of Amboseli, there's a return to the good times.
All right, so there you go. There's the video. Now I'm just going to I'm going to close all this, and we're going to be working in this project now. So when you wait for this to open up. So a couple of things that you can do with a project like this. There's something called, you can do one of two ways, at least for this type. You can do something called Mickey Mousing, where you score absolutely every moment of action, where if the bird looks up out of the nest, you write a little something for that, or if or we have these shots of these great this great shot of bats flying over the forest. So what I did, and if you're a Logic user, if you just close the video, it'll go back into this little frame window, and you can open this whole dialog box. A lot of stuff going on here. Simply by clicking this info button or inspector button, and it toggles between what you have there and being able to see it and not see it. So, all right, so let's dive into this. So here you have, I've got a couple of things set up, so I'm going to try to make it as easily as possible. This little window right here, and this is going to be different for Pro Tools and Digital Performer. Just keep in mind I'm using Logic Pro 10. You have this global track editor, and you have different things up here like your markers, movies, tempo, the beat map, which is a huge help. And then if you right click on this little area, you can pull up things like your arrangement windows, the time signature, transpositions, um, and but right now I'm not going to use those. I don't need them. So when we talk about Mickey Mousing and things like that, we have this image right here of this bird, popping its head up out of the nest, and that can be something that you would score. Another thing that you might score is when it's falling asleep, which is really cute. And then there's a couple of things that you really need to focus on, that you need to have music really changing and enhancing what's going on. There's not a whole lot of dialogue. As you can see here, it's pretty sparse. I mean, it takes up maybe half of the clip, if that, and that's actual speaking. All the rest of it, sound effects and animals. So there's a lot of space for music, and there's a lot of space to do very interesting and different things. So when you are spotting a session or you're spotting a clip, I'll show you how I do it. So after I've watched the film, I'll go through and I'll say, so the two big points that I have, my music starts right here, right when the baby bird pops up. Now, I wait a long time for music to come in. 14 seconds of dead space, that's kind of a lot, depending on the film. So that's the first one that I have, and you can see right here that I've marked it first melody with piano. I'm going to show you what these are. So these markers are where I have cues for me to write music. So this first marker here is piano. It says piano with ambient colors, adding some pizzicato strings here as well. Throw in some miscellaneous percussion to make it less mundane. So I decided to score this whole thing as a through composed piece, which means I didn't really pick a whole lot of sync points or accent points. I just picked 2 or 3 that really changed the mood and the feel of the piece or the film, and I wanted something that was really cohesive and that could stand on its own. When I talk about the other kind, the Mickey Mousing, over here is a perfect place. So, you can score something for the lion, you can change styles for the buffalo that are coming through, then you can change styles for this hippo that's coming up out of the water, and there's a whole lot of things you can do. A lot of people, which I think is fantastic, when this hippo comes up, are going to do either comedy or something kind of big and bouncy, which is going to be a lot of fun. So what I did is over here, I have my first melody, and then in this second hit is where it changes to this big sweeping shot of the bats flying over the trees. So that's where I have it marked to do a full orchestra. Large swell into the orchestra, strings, woods on melody, horns, low strings providing accompaniment. That just gives me a note as to what I want to do. So these markers are really invaluable. And then the next marker I have is when it changes into the darker scenes. Place for time changing into new section. It's going to get a little bit slower. It's going to change the melody itself. Here I'm going to use the next melody, or the same melody that I had at the beginning, and then this last one is going to have a swell into silence, and then with just a ringing out chord to fill out the rest of the music, or to fill out the rest of the film. So those are the markers. down here you can see my tempo window, and if you look here, close this. So my initial starting tempo is right at about 58. So I thought this was a really good tempo. This for me. You can score it faster. Tempo is something that is completely subjective to what you want to score. So for me, it was about 58, between 57, and then I wrote in some automation for some tempo changes and things like that, which I can show you. We'll cover that in another video. But I just want to show, well, maybe I'll do a little bit for you. So my first tempo starts at 58, and then I go all the way down, I think, over here to, I think it gets down to like 35 or something like that, just for the tempo change, and then it jumps back up to 55. So there's quite a bit of tempo variation, and the reason that you want to do tempo variation is because if you don't, you may get frustrated and in trying to figure out why your music won't sync up to your picture. And there are so many different things that go into syncing up your picture, that, and tempo is just one of the many things that you can do. Let me back up, and in excuse me, in markers, when you create a marker, and I'll just create a marker down here at the end so I don't mess up my stuff, I can select any point, and if you select, or if you the shortcut key is Option apostrophe, and it just creates a marker right on that downbeat. Now, say you wanted to get, so that picture of the cheetah, you would zoom in all the way as far as you could, and you would want to line up exactly when that cheetah appears. So I have her appearing pretty close to the downbeat. So if I needed that to be exactly on the downbeat, what you can do is, and let me scroll over here. We'll just use these cats, or the or that lion. So this lion right here. So he falls, fortunately, right on beat 88. But let's say that he didn't. Let's say he fell kind of close to beat 1, a little bit off. If you create a marker and you instead hold down, instead of Option apostrophe, if you hold down the Control button before, so you hit Control Option apostrophe, and you can also do it up here just by clicking the plus button, it'll create a marker at exactly that point. Well, now that point doesn't match up with beat 1, and I have to have that marker match up with beat 1. So this is where the beat mapping comes in. So all of 3 of these things work together to sync up your video to your music. So in this beat mapping, if I move my cursor over here, and I click on marker 6, there's a little tab that's going to come up right here. Now, all you do is you click and hold, and it's going to drag over. As soon as you let it go, it lines up that marker with the beat, which is really fantastic. So that's what I did with all of these. And then to fine tune where those markers are, I did some automation in the tempo window, in the tempo line. So let me go back here. So you can see that you can see kind of where my tempos change and how they kind of go down and slow down and things like that. It's so that I can line up these shots perfectly with when things are happening on the screen with the music. So I'm going to go ahead and play what I have in just the piano. And yeah, so I chose 3/4 time, and I chose the key of E minor, and it kind of goes back and forth between E minor, and I have then I modulate the melody up to B minor, and I play around with the key of F for a little bit, so it kind of gets a little weird, um, but hopefully it hopefully you guys like it. So I'm just gonna start it from this little section, and I'll let you guys play it, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Has paid off. She is the only eagle to actually nest in this forest. The only one who took the risk to breed here well before the trees came into fruit.
Whoops, sorry, I don't know what happened. Let's try that again. That's what I wanted to do. Sorry about that, guys. That was crazy.
Has paid off. She is the only eagle to actually nest in this forest. The only one who took the risk to breed here well before the trees came into fruit and the bats flooded in. She only breeds once every 2 years, so her timing must be perfect.
So here's where the furl orchestra will come in.
In a few months, the bats will leave, but her gamble means her chick will have the best possible start in life.
There's another melody.
These grasslands have been grazed and burned and have endured the harshest drought in generations. But with the rains, they're beginning to recover. And on the once dust-choked plains of Amboseli, there's a return to the good times.
All right. So there you can kind of see what I did. Sorry for the hiccup earlier. So you can see this little B section here. I hope it's kind of easy to hear what would happen with the orchestration, having large soaring strings and things like that. So yeah, if you have any questions, please let me know, as this is the first video in this series. Again, we're going to be doing this every Thursday, and we're going to try to keep it to 15 to 20 minutes at most. Hopefully you get a lot of information out of this. Again, if you have any comments or questions, please tag me in those so that I can get a hold of you, or if you have a specific question, or if you'd like a question answered in one of our weekly videos, please let me know, and maybe we can get to it. Like I said earlier, these next couple of videos are going to be really for beginning and basic users of film scoring, and we're going to kind of assume that you understand how to use Logic and whatever in DAW that you're going to be using. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Have a wonderful and blessed night, and be safe. And we'll talk to you guys later.